Sorry about that. Okay. So, I wanted to pop in on a stream today because I did a stream last night that got really heavy and very emotional, and it kind of changed the structure of how I usually do the stream. I didn't cover a lot of the things that I wanted to. I didn't do a lot of readings, and it was good. It was very positive. There was a lot of good energy that came from it, but it was I thought that I'd pop in this afternoon and kind of try to snap back to that positive energy, snap back to that kind of some laughter, some cards, and some of the fun stuff that I enjoy to do. And before we do the stream tonight. So that said, first of all, Sally, how are you doing? Sure, I'd love to take a look at some cards for you. There's a few things we're going to be doing today too. The spotlight deck today is the Deviant Moon by Patrick Valenza, right? And so if this is for Sally, I'm just going to pick a random card out of the spotlight deck for today, and let's see what we get. And then we'll take a look at your reading here in a moment, your question here. This is a really, really pretty deck. I like this one a lot. It's a very personal take on the Rider-Waite system. This artist has this really beautiful world that they've created, and it's a very, very persistent throughout the cards, and it really draws you in. It's very immersive. Heavy in the Rider-Waite symbolism, but at the same time, very different artistically, and so I kind of like it. So let's see what we can find here. Just pull a quick random card. Just kind of as like a quick message before we begin on your question. The fight is raging, and you're finding yourself alone in it, right? It's like, which is okay though. It turns out it's okay. And it might actually not be a bad idea to pop up the Rider-Waite version to show you the difference here, like the comparison between these two cards, to really get the point across. right? So you can see that the person is sort of like in a very good position, right? Like they're not losing the battle, but they're alone. They have the high ground, regardless of the stuff that's in their way. It's turning out not to be a problem. And but there's also the idea here that although sometimes we make a deal, so to speak, with a group of people or a company, or that I'll show up if you show up, that doesn't mean everybody always does. And you know what? So we can't always expect that. And sometimes we have to kind of be accepting of the fact that, if I'm the one that does it and I wind up fighting alone, then so be it. At least the battle, which is the important thing, was won, right? I mean, at least this goal that we have. They teach that in the military very often too. If you have 4 or 5 people that have a specific goal in mind, and you're finding that 2 or 3 of those people are not able to pull their weight, rather than judging those people, the others step in and take on their burden for the sake of the whole group. And what winds up happening is the 2 that were falling behind contribute 100% of what they're able to, and everybody benefits, right? And so, and it's that same kind of idea here, but you're the one kind of being put in the position of having to take on that role. And so you have to decide like where you are in that. Like, am I okay with it? Am I going to resent it? But either way, that's the role that you're in. And it's always a good lesson to say, you know what? Listen, if I'm okay, I'm not being injured, I'm not, I'm in a good position, I'm probably going to wind up coming out of it better. Almost be grateful. And this is also an opportunity in this too that's implicit if you look at the story of the cards and where it leads. There's a big win, and that win is earned, and basically people notice. It's kind of like when you step up when others don't. Not only do they feel that internal shame of the fact that they didn't, but they're also can not deny the respect that you've earned. And whether or not they even show that outwardly, that respect is gained, and that notice changes the trajectory of your life kind of karmically, right? Because as we all know and deny or not, everything in the world that happens is our will making the decision, and then us enrolling the rest of the world to make it happen. We don't do anything. We basically through a series of manipulations, we ask of the universe, we impose our will upon it, and then through a process of convincing, the world provides. Right now we have the tools like gravity to convince, which is easy. I drop this and it falls, and so it's not hard to convince the ball to drop, but it is harder to convince a person to give us something we want, or people, or it's even harder to convince ourselves. But so this card is sort of like, be okay when you find yourself in the role of having to be the one that does the work, because at the end of the day it'll be noticed, right? Hello Tristan, thanks for popping in. There's another thing I thought would be really fun, and I've had a lot of fun with this over a couple of streams, and so anyone who wants to participate, this is a lot of fun. What we're going to be doing is, I got this book, it's from the 70s, at a church yard sale, and it's like the sun signs, but like the dark side of the sun signs, right? And so, and it goes through like physical descriptions and all kinds of fun stuff. So it's like an interesting little thing to look at, sort of what was the subculture of astrology back in the mid-70s. And it's also from kind of a humorous angle, because it's the idea of like the reality of the sign. You look up horoscopes and it's always like warm and fuzzy positive stuff, the strength of Leo and the gregarious, kind of attractiveness of the Sagittarius. Well, what about like the reality of those signs? And like some of the stuff they talk about, there's something in Aries that's really fun and all that. Anyway, so if you want to, just pop in your sun sign and we'll go through the book real quick and like look at some of the qualities of the reality of the signs. And how does she put it, the author? It's a fun book. An unusual, practical, revealing, unflattering, lighthearted astrological guide to the perverse personalities of our friends, enemies, lovers, and ourselves. Just so it's a cute take. It's a really cute take. And Jocelyn, how's it going? Good to see you. Thanks for popping back in. And so it kind of goes through the signs and gives you, like, there's a little byline. Capricorn is, for instance, the honor seeker, or Taurus is the insensitive bully, you know. Sagittarius is the Don Juan. Scorpio, the sex-obsessed demoralizer, right? But so basically, it's like it's sort of a humorous take on like the dark side. Look at this. Leo's the prima donna. I mean, I don't know. I just think that's hysterical. And so we can have a lot of fun with that. So anybody that wants to kind of see where they are in this cute little book from the past, just put your sun sign in the chat, and I'll be happy to look it up for you. In the meantime as well, let me get the list going, so when we get to doing readings that we know who's in what order. And so thanks to everyone who's popped in on the stream so far. And if you're interested in a reading, I know Sally had a question. Let's see, Tristan, thank you for stopping in. If you'd like me to throw some cards for you, no problem. And of course, Jocelyn, thank you so much for stopping back in. Jocelyn's been here a couple of times, and that means a lot. You know, when you start something like this, you want to know, am I having an impact? Is it working? And so it's nice to know that people pop back in. So, great, yeah. So, great. So you're on the list as well, Tristan, and then Jocelyn, you'll be next. And now there's a couple of ways that we go about this. There's one thing that's occurred right now, and it's the last quick thing I want to talk about before I begin the readings. And that is the period of time that we're in, because this is relevant to everybody that's here, and it's kind of it goes to the heart of part of my technique when reading new people. Is there's many different systems within the tarot, right? And you know, unbeknownst to a lot of people, the knowledge that this comes from is very ancient. And it is primarily derived from the Hermetic or the esoteric arts, at least with respect to the more hidden side of the astrology of tarot. And you know, we can certainly look at the surface. For instance, that Virgo means hermit, and that's a surface thing, right? But then we have another deeper meaning with respect to that, as far as the periods of time that we're in. And you know, there's multiple ways that the ancients cut up their sky into 4s for the seasons, into 12 for the months, you know, because of the moon cycle, and you know, and various others. And now there was a very holy number, which was 10, and 10 appears all over the place in different cultures, and it's, you know, obviously it's manifested itself in our mathematics. And it's really, 10 it comes from a natural process. It's not an arbitrary number, and it's out of the scope of this particular moment, but I will be speaking about it later, and I have done it on prior streams, where the number 10 comes from. But so they decided to cut the wheel up into 10-degree sections, and that leaves us 36 different divisions of the sky when we do that. And those are called the Deacons, or the Decanate. And the Deacons are these 10-degree portions of the sky, and it's not a coincidence that there are 36 small cards in the tarot, and there are 36 Deacons, right? And what I mean by the small cards are the cards 2 through 10. The aces are different, because the aces are at their core the element in its purest form, and they represent the season, so the entire 3-month period. And so each ace, the Ace of Pentacle as an example, represents Earth, and is going to represent an entire period of time, as opposed to the more transient cards, which are the Deacons, and they only represent a 10-day period of time. But now there's some things that can be derived from that. If we locate our birthday on the wheel, then that gives us the idea of the Deacon that rules that time. So right now, today's date is September 12th. That's to the far right in the green section there. And you'll also see the card of the 10 of Pentacle. Now there's some other information here, right? The 9 of Pentacle has that symbol for Venus next to it, and the 10 of Pentacle has the symbol for Mercury. But they're both in Virgo. And so those of us who have this vocabulary of astrology know that Virgo has a certain connotation to us, and so do the planets. And so what we can now say, though, is that we have transitioned from the energy of Venus in Virgo into the energy of Mercury in Virgo. And we've also shifted with respect to the period of time that we're in that is ruled by the Deacons. And the first deacon that we have moved from and into is we've moved from the 9 into the 10. We are now in the period of the 10 of Pentacles. And so we've gone from this period of the rest that comes, the quiet that comes from the work being done, or the anxiety of the loss, or the opportunity that we missed, into the period of the 10. And we're going to talk about the 10 at length as we go through today and as we go through readings over the next week, as we emerge into this new phase, and right before we move into this Libra energy, right? So there's a lot of transitions going on, and that's felt directly in the world by things that are occurring. Some of them pretty big. You know, we've just seen one of the most significant transfers of power in a half a century in Britain, and which is also, frankly, almost a reversal in the sense that globally we're moving into a feminine energy, and yet we see here the Queen passing to the King. Although the King is transient, he won't be ruling as long as she did. But that said, still though, that energy shift is going to be interesting from the feminine to the masculine during a time where we're moving to the feminine. And so one of the things that we do is we locate each other's birth cards. Now this is a card that does not change throughout your life. So if you're we're born in the middle of December and people ask you your sign, you say, oh, well, I'm a Sagittarius. Well, you can now also include the planet associated with that. For instance, I'm the 10 of Wand, or the deacon that is ruled by Saturn in Sagittarius, which is a very different energy than, say, Sun in Sagittarius, or the Moon, or, whatever the case. So how we find that is I'll pop the wheel up, and if you can't see it because of your device or whatever case, just put your month and day of birth in the chat, and I'll locate it for you, and we'll go for there. So, Jeannie, hello. It's good to see you. We'll take a look at that. No problem. And so, Sally, Tristan, Jocelyn, Saji as well, if you'd like to participate, I just need your birth card. I don't remember, those who've been here, I don't remember your birth cards, and if you have not been here, then we just simply need to locate it. 4 of Cups. Okay, great. So Tristan's a 4 of Cups. August 20th puts us in the period of time of the 7 of Wand. Okay, so Sally is the 7 of Wand. And you'll notice that the 7 of Wand as well is the energy of Mars in Leo, right? And so instead of just saying, yeah, I was born under Leo, you can also have this energy of that you're in Mars in Leo, which is a very active form of that. Yes, the 7 of Wand. Staff, Wand. 7 of Wands. I love that. Wow, that's great. I want that on a t-shirt. And here, so let's pop that card up so we can have context here. And so, let's move that up. And of course, anybody that was present when I pulled the random card, that was the card that came up, right? Is that still? Do I have it in the back? Yeah, this was the card that came up for the random card. And, again, so you guys already kind of know the initial meaning of this card. There's many layers of knowledge when you're talking about the tarot and when you're talking about meanings. And so it's very important as an intuitive to kind of get out of your own way when deciding what direction to go with that. But that said, the crux of this idea, and, it wouldn't hurt to pop out the 6. The 6 here is the position of a person who is in power because they've earned it. The battle happened. There was a victory that took place, and they earned power. And now they are in the position. Hello, Ronnie. How you doing? They are in the position to gather the troops toward a goal. Why? Because they've earned the respect. It's not about that they were put in that position, like they were promoted into it. They earned it. Absolutely. I'll pop you in the queue. No problem. Let's get you in there now. And so what happens here is that now real work can happen, right? Because now you have not only a direction, a goal, and it's real, but you have resources to help that take place, right? And so this happened. Now, one of the problems with strength is that it's very often easy for us to assume everybody else is as strong as us, or they're thinking what we're thinking, or that they're capable of what we're capable of. And, you know, if we're the strongest person in the room, that can be a little daunting when, you know, the battle starts and then we're in the middle of it and we look up and realize, wait, where'd everybody go, right? I'm going to pop up the 8 and 9 here as well, because let's tell this story. There's a lot going on, but the person in the 7 is in a very good position. They're confident, they're uninjured, they feel good, they're fearless. The battle's happening and you're scared, so you build courage in order to get through it, and you take that courage into that battle. But now you're in the heat of the battle. The fear is gone, so the courage is gone because it's no longer a necessity, but the energy that was built stays. And now you have this chance to turn that into power, and that's the 7. You're too busy fighting to even worry about fear, courage, all this. You're just getting it done. And notice there's no injury, there's no danger. You have the high ground. And then you have the 8, which shows the end of this process. All this stuff coming at you has a trajectory, a place where it starts, the middle, which is the 7, and then the 8, which shows that they're coming to an end. And then we have the picture of the 9, which is the dust settles. You got this bandage around your head. It was a hard fight. Where'd everybody go? Right? And this is the idea of the person that shows up when other people don't. But now, but that hasn't happened yet. You're in the 7. You're in this phase of busy showing up, and so courage, there's no time for courage. You're too busy being fearless. Fearless also a lot of times can occur because we don't have a choice. Like, we're kind of forced into a situation, so we have to act. And then we'll find out after the fact that, oh wow, I was able to make it through that. Who knew? And had you been given the choice or the question of whether or not you could have, you may not have thought you could, or you may have thought and sort of prevented yourself through mental activity. But that's not the case here. The power is kind of within you. Having the 7 of Wands as your in your birth situation gives you the opportunity to kind of utilize that energy as an ongoing source for you. We all tap it when we need to, but for you it's easy. And so that's the lesson of the 7. And the period of time that we are in now is this period of the 10. And this is a good period of time to, while there's a few ways to look at it, self-reflection is one way to look at that. This is a period of time of the different stages, right? You've got the little baby on the bottom right, kind of peeking out, looking at us next to the dogs. Then you've got the adults that are busy walking, chattering, the activity of their lives going on, and this older person in the front that's kind of looking at the past, thinking about when they were the child, thinking about when they were the adults, the decisions they made and where it led them to this comfortable place. Things are good. There seems to be a bounty. There's overall joy here. It doesn't look like a tenuous situation, clear skies, that type of thing. And the 10 is a very good card as far as abundance and, energies related to that. It's the sort of little white book meaning. 10 of coin is always a pretty positive energy. But we also right now are in the period of the Hermit. And so let's look at the 10 from that respect. You get one of two options here in the 10 of Pentacle. Either you did the work and you have the peace that comes with that, and you are able to become a resource for people, i.e. share your wisdom, or your regret, and it's the deep kind because it's too late. And you don't want to be at that stage. So it comes to the techniques that we can use to avoid that. And how do we avoid that? Well, one of the ways is the hermit. And so, like I talked about with your birth card, making it easy for you to be in this state of the 7, we're all in a state that it's easy for us to enter the hermit over this period of time. Pardon my puppies. The period of time that we're in is conducive to the hermit. We're in a period of time where we can easily go in, easily quiet the din of the world, and to look at ourselves. I have said oftentimes that the hermit is a lesson that there is no truth in the light, and that's true. The sun shines indiscriminately. It shows us everything, right? So it's incumbent upon us to discern between truth and falsehood, or what we really believe and what we don't believe, and that can be difficult. But when we go into the darkness, something very interesting happens, because what happens is we're forced to use something other than our eyes. It won't work in the dark, right? And so the only thing that we can use that's effective, you'll try many things in the dark. We'll fish around with our hands. We'll call out for help even. And then when we just quiet and we realize that the only thing we can use is our inner light, this lantern. That's a different kind of light than the sun. That is very discriminate and will only shine on the truth. But that light doesn't work in the sun. It's useless in the sun. It gets drowned out, so it must be used in the darkness. And so this period of time of saying to myself, I'm in this state of showing up to this battle, and I'm recognizing that I'm going to be by myself in this, even though I thought I had people that had my back. How you react to this circumstance over the next period of time is going to determine how we approach these circumstances, and whether when we find ourselves in the period right now that we're in of the 10, are we in a state of regret, or are we in a state of becoming a resource of wisdom through our experience for others, and enjoying the peace of the fact that we don't have that burden any longer. We did the work, and now we get to share not just the joy of that, but share our experience, and so we can lessen the suffering of future generations, make it easier on our children and our grandchildren and so forth, and obviously ourselves, right? And so that's the period of time that you're in right now, and this period ends on the 22nd, right, which is a significant date. As we all know, we're going to be moving into the autumnal equinox. Fall is here. Now, here's the beautiful part about that, for me. Brief interlude. I live in the mountains of the Hudson Valley in upstate New York, and there's literally nothing more beautiful in the world than the mountains in the fall, when it is just splashes of orange and red and yellow and gold, and then the sun makes it glow at night against a purple sky. It's so just... And it's also proof that woman decorated Earth. Man may have taken the stuff and squished it into a rock, but woman made it beautiful. And if you don't believe me, just right now go to Google or Wikipedia and look up the Hudson Valley during the fall. And so that's coming, and that's at the end of the period of time that we're in right now, right? This is going to be the period ending on the 22nd, and that's this is the place that you're in right now. And if you've done the work, guess what you get? You get to be in this period of the 10 during this time. And so, enjoy it. If somebody has something to ask you, give them the truth, even if it's what you don't think they're going to hear, because that's what you're here for, is to share that experience. If you're the little child, don't miss the beauty in the world during this period of time. If you're the adults, relax. Yeah, you're getting your work done, but don't forget to enjoy each other and kind of, have some drinks after work, or get together just because. But don't forget to enjoy the circumstance of the bounty that we do have. Let's not miss the forest for the trees. Okay? All right, Sally, so that's, I hope that was insightful, and if, as far as your particular circumstance related to Noah here, We can probably get to the heart of that with one card, and I'm going to try to do that for you. And then we'll move to the next in the list, which is going to be Tristan. If you're still here, give me a thumbs up or a hey, because you're next. And in the meantime, this is to answer Sally's question related to basically the feelings of this other person, and are you the only thing they're looking at, or do they have multiple targets, right? Is their heart looking here or there or there or there? Like, how many are they looking at, right? Let's take a look. And again, just because I think that he deserves the notoriety, this deck is called Deviant Moon Tarot. It's the card for the day. Okay, Tristan, great. You're next. And Patrick Valenza is the artist. There's a link in the description. I don't use affiliate links to earn commissions. It goes directly to the artist's website. And if you like the deck, then really I encourage you, if you're going to give anybody money, give that money to the artist. I think we can all agree. And if you found any value in what I'm doing here, all I ask is that you like the video and please consider a comment, even if it's just, hey, your reading is awful and I hate you and you're ugly. It makes a big difference, because the reason you're all looking at me is that the robot put me in front of you, and that's because it reads comments, and it makes a big difference. And any donation is welcome. I appreciate it. So that said, let's move to we have our friend the Fly here today. The mountains are bittersweet. I have a beautiful ride to work, so to speak, but I also have bears, deer, which are beautiful, but they eat my tomatoes. Which actually, it's funny. So, you put up the fence and you deal with what you have to deal with so that the deer don't eat your tomatoes, right? Luana, hello. And then what happens? There is a caterpillar. It's a thorn caterpillar. It's about this big, right? And it's bright green, and it has a thorn coming out of the end of its tail. Now that thorn it's not a weapon or anything. And what this thing does, just to be clear, this one little caterpillar about this long, it eats entire tomato plants. Like, there's not a single leaf. This fly is driving me crazy. It's not a single leaf or a single tomato left in the world. It's just, okay, that's going to be, it's driving me nuts. It's completely consumed an entire tomato plant overnight, and I was like, there's no way. How did a deer get in my backyard? And then I see this caterpillar. And so a buddy of mine's like, oh, that might be one of those tomato caterpillars. I'm like, okay, but let's just talk about physics here. How did this plant wind up in a caterpillar that big in one night? Like, it can't, even if it sort of ate and pooped like in a steady stream of like tomato poop, like, how could it have eaten an entire tomato plant? Leaf, fruit, stem, seed, nothing left but stalk. It was really, I was completely flabbergasted. And that's one of the things that you get when you live in the mountains. You get caterpillars that eat entire tomato plants. It's funny. Okay, so let's see. We are at Tristan. Oh, and by the way, really quickly, Luana, do you want to jump on the list? If so, let me know. Let's see if there's anybody I missed there. I'll put your name on because I know you wanted to last night, and as last night was a very weird stream, and so it kind of got a little weird with the readings and stuff, and so I know I would like to make up for that. And I really appreciate anybody who participated in yesterday's stream, because it was really intense. And I feel like that there was a significant impact. Sure. Well, that type of question, Tristan, is a little out of the scope of a sort of like a quick thing, but I'll be happy to give you some basic insight. Oh, great. Okay. So here, let me pop you off then. So, but let's take a look, just as a general, because I do that kind of thing. There's two readings that I do incidentally, just to kind of plug myself while I'm shuffling for Tristan. There's two readings in particular that I do that are relevant. I do a clock question. Which one was the yes or no? Oh, well, no, well, yeah, we'll get to it. The clock reading, which is basically we look at each month individually, is a series of cards that go into that month to kind of look at the year as almost like a snapshot. And the other one would essentially be the houses reading, which is similar to that, but it uses the houses as opposed, like the astrological houses, as opposed to the specific. I believe I forgot to drop the card for Sally with respect to their question of whether or not this person is being, shall we say, monogamous or magnanimous. Okay. Now, the Ace of Cup is the root of emotion. This is kind of in this particular circumstance, yes or no is an interesting kind of question when you get an ace, because you could look at it from the respective polarity. This is why, by the way, I've mentioned this on the stream. Yes or no questions are not suited for tarot. They just, it's, there are certain cards that do have a connotation of negative. If it's a yes or no when you get the Tower, it's probably a no, right? If it's a yes or no when you get the Nine of Cups, it's probably a yes. But what do you do for the Ace of Cups, right? So let's look at that. Well, it's a feminine energy, and so typically that refers to the negative, the receptive energy of the yin-yang, right? There's the active and the passive, the receptive and the bestowal, that type thing. The cup receives, and so it's the negative energy. It's the space that contains, and so it's a no. However, the cup refers to emotion and things being filled up emotionally, and so that means a yes. And it also depends upon the implications of that, right? So again, and the question with respect to kind of like a quick reading and on the internet requires more than just a yes or no card. I've never been a fan of yes or no readings. I have been using this tool for almost 40 years. I've taught for 30. Yes or no is it's kind of a toughie. You have the same odds flipping a coin. So what I like to do, and we can do it here, is to kind of shift the question a little bit. So instead of, are they cheating on me? We can kind of get, or, do they love me? One way that we can shift that energy is, for instance, adding a word to the front of that question. One really interesting question when you're looking at connections is that, like, what is the overall energy of the connection? Meaning that if you got together, would it be good or bad? Here's an example. Someone will ask me, will we get married? Yeah, but he's going to beat you and cheat, right? So the question should have rather been maybe, how would we be together? Is it a positive relationship or connection karmically, right? Like, would it work out, or would it sort of be a bad thing that I should avoid? Will they say yes is one thing. Is it good if they say yes is another, right? Hello, good morning. Thanks for popping in on the stream, Tasty One. So let's do that. Let's take a look at that. And this is for Sally real quick, and then we're gonna begin with Tristan. So I'm sorry about that. Because yes or no's are also, they're very tough. So it's telling us the same answer, right? So I shuffled, and now we got the Queen of Cups. So basically the idea here is look in your heart. There's a lot of ways to answer that question better than a quick little let's keep the stream moving reading. What we want to do is look at him individually and you individually, and say, like, for instance, kind of take a look at his birthday, some other things, look at yours and some other things, and then we can have this kind of like for instance, like a mind, body, soul reading, where we look at the connection and we look at the mind, body, and soul from the respective your perspective and his. So how does he see you physically? How does he see you mentally? How does he see you emotionally? And what is your motivation physically, mentally, and emotionally toward him. So that really gives us insight now. Like, what do I want from them? Do I want a relationship, or am I feeling empty and I want to be filled up, and I think they'll do that? Will they actually fulfill me if we get together, or is it just a waste? Are we physically compatible or not? Are we emotionally compatible, right? And so that's a really good reading. That's a mind, body, and soul reading, and that's a great one for any kind of connection, whether it's even a business partner and a potential connection with that respect, love and a love interest. But so, you know, getting an Ace of Cup and then getting the cup again in a court is telling me that this is, you know, it's a different kind of answer. That's kind of like look in your heart, and we can go a little deeper on that, kind of in a different way. Okay, so Tristan, why is my ex trying to hurt me so badly? So yeah, we let's pop up your birth card here. The Four of Cup is an interesting card for like where you are emotionally. The Four of Cup is the card of like disdain. It's kind of like the card of like, harumph. Look at all this stuff in front of me, and I'm so tired of it. And like being there, there's like an anger. There's like a cynicism toward those three cups, the past. It's always the same every time, right? Okay. So much so that even if the universe were to like offer you the truth, you don't want it. And now that's not saying that that's what's occurring. That's the energy of the idea here. The idea that there can be, it could be easy to be distracted. Right. We're talking about here your birth card, right? So if this is the energy that was present at the time of your birth, the four, right? So we're not talking about an event that took place. This is more of the idea that you may find it easy to be distracted by the injustices, to be distracted by the things that you see that you kind of make an assumption on, that affects you emotionally. So an example of that, which is a little different than the five. The five is looking at the spilled cups and ignoring the two behind you. In the five, you don't know that the cups are there. Okay? It's kind of like, you know, this person will eventually hopefully get over those spilled cups and see those two behind them and realize they have abundance. Not only do they have one for them, they have one for somebody else. There's even more than they thought they needed, and they're too busy looking at the spilled cups. Where the four is different. The cups aren't spilled, they just hate what's inside of it, and they know that this cup you're giving me is just more stuff I don't like. But it's not true. So what we're referring to is this energy that there can be sometimes a frustration that you're not getting what you want, and so you refuse to participate. And now that can be an empowering process from the degree of sticking to your guns, and that's important that we impose our will on the universe, just as long as we do it appropriately to get what we want. Because the reality is the past does not dictate the future. I don't care how many times you've been cheated on. That doesn't mean you're going to be the next time. I don't care how many times you've been, disrespected at a job. That doesn't mean your next boss is going to be a dick. It's not guaranteed. And so we have to kind of say, you know what? Yes, the past had a hand in forming who I am. It had a hand in deciding how I've developed over time. But that's kind of a lie, because the reality is who we are at the moment is who we decide to be in the moment. And if we decide to be something new that isn't the stuff that we carry with us, actually this whole card disappears and that cup just is naturally already in your hand. Because you kind of let go of the things that you've been distracted by. Now, the Hermit is the way to do that during the period of time that we're in. The Hermit is the way to do that. And now the question that you asked is with respect to why is my ex trying to hurt me badly? Okay, well, I'm going to resist the urge to answer that mentally. And I'm just going to let the cards answer that. But I think intuitively a lot of us know why people will try to hurt us. It's only one of a couple of reasons. Very, very typically. The question here is are they trying to hurt you? Or are they acting in a way that's just against their nature, and you're being hurt in the process? And so are they willingly trying to hurt you, or are they hurting you and not caring, like being indifferent to the fact that you're being hurt? Or are they ignorant to the fact that you're being hurt but doing it anyway? So we can look at that first too, like where are they coming from, and is there actually a intent behind it? Okay. So what a beautiful depiction. I love, again, just for anyone who's kind of popped in, the spotlight deck for today is Deviant Moon by Patrick Valenza. This is a 6 of Cups. I just want to, I have to pop up the Rider. You guys are going to love his interpretation of this card, okay? Just great. So the 6 of Cups in the Rider system refers to like let me zoom in on it. This is the 6 of Cups. The cups are depicted on the top there, so it's not easily apparent what suit this is. And we have nostalgia is almost really like the 10, but we'll talk about that, kind of, but not really. And I'll that's not a bad word, and I'll tell you why in a sec. This is very cute because you have the children playing and you have the puppet show, and I'll explain the symbolism here. So what we have in the depiction is an older person and a younger one. The younger one is approaching the older one, and the older one is kind of offering this flower, the cup with the flowers in it, as a gift, right? One of the occult meanings of the card is letting them have it. It's the idea of playing the floor is lava with a child. The child approaches you with a playful innocence and wants to connect, and they want to play. Ooh, Daddy, the floor is lava. Now you have an option. Oh, honey, I'm busy. I have to work. Or, oh, I'm sorry, no, I'm too tired, whatever the case. Or you can give in. Oh my God! Quick! Get out the pillows and build a fort, right, against the dragon. And basically give in to the child. Another one is when a friend of yours that, got that weird haircut. And God bless him, it's going to be like 3 weeks until it grows to a point that they can fix it. Oh, of course. Oh, wow. What a look. Well, you look so mature. It's not just about lying. That's not what this is. But what this is the recognition that you hold joy in your hand and you have the ability to share that joy. And there's a connection there. So with respect to nostalgia, is this sense of wanting the future generation to have the joy that you had. The 10 of Pentacle is nostalgia. The seated gentleman on the left, the older man with the white curls and the beard, is looking at the child and the family, thinking back to when he was in those stages. Right? And so that's more of the card of nostalgia. But what the 6 is respect of spreading the joy emotionally. Giving it to them, letting them have it. It's the gift of another way too is the very holy magic, which is the ratio of give to receive, right? God gives, God bestows, right? God bestowed the universe with all of matter and our breath of life and all these things, right? And then human beings receive. And it's our compulsion when we want to be like God to give. And so it's that general idea. Well, I tell you what, Tristan, the simple cheat sheet is really good place to start. And there's no shame in that. And if you were to do a reading for somebody, and that was the meaning that you saw, and it intuitively felt right to you, then it was during that reading. And that is a great way to start. Everybody started when they bought their writer deck and they got their little white book and they read the meaning. That's how you begin, and those are correct from a degree. Those meanings are the outer meaning. Arthur Waite, who created the Rider-Waite deck along with the artist Pamela Coleman Smith, was the member of a magical order called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And they were a secret organization that not everybody was privy to. You had to be able to financially afford it. You had to have the IQ, basically the mental fortitude to actually study the work. And anybody who paid their dues could walk in the door and get their some basic information that was privy to anyone who paid their dues. And that's called the Outer Order. And the Outer Order is lies told openly. The Lover's card means love. The lovers. Ooh, lovers. Oh, look at them dance together and they're beautiful. Oh, they're naked. But then there's the inner meaning. This is not about love. This is about temptation, right? This is about Adam and Eve. And what is the story of Adam and Eve but temptation? Eve was tempted with the gift of knowledge of good and evil, of being like God, and Adam was tempted by Eve. She became the product of his temptation. And then there's the inner order that nobody's privy to. It's by invite only. The only person that can invite you in is you. It's self-initiation. You have to figure it out on your own. And only a very selective number of people even know that that's the way you get in, and even fewer are able to through determining the answer on their own. It can't be taught. It can only be learned. It can't be disseminated. It can only come to you on your own. And so that meaning of the lovers is that the fall is necessary because the goal of human beings is redemption, and redemption can't occur without the fall. Eve was not a bad girl. She did exactly what needed to be done. She fulfilled the destiny of our creation. And so that's the lesson of the lovers, right? So there's different meanings in the cards. And so the little white book meaning is nostalgia. Now, the deeper meaning of the six, I'm not even going to get into for this purpose of the circumstance, but what I am going to tell you here is that the relevance to your question is, let him have it. Even if somebody comes up to you and you're annoyed with it already, with like the kid that won't stop asking why, so what? Who cares if they're asking why? Just let them have it. Answer the question. Play the floor is lava. If there's somebody in your life that's a little annoying because they have some kind of inflated ego and they think they're great, you know what? Don't argue it for a day. Hey, Cora, thanks for popping back in. Don't call them on it for a couple days. Let them have it. I know, honey. Yeah, you're really smart. Oh, you're the best pool player on the planet. I'm so lucky to have you. And what we have here, this is the important thing and why I like Patrick Valenza's meaning. What are they doing? They're playing, they're watching a puppet show, and they are, on purpose, giving in to the fantasy of it. They're letting themselves, okay, I'll watch the puppet show. Oh, you're putting on a little show, honey? That's so sweet, right? Let them have it. That's what the card is. So during this time, don't call them out that it's just a show. Oh, you are the best pool player. Oh, yeah, you really are the best lover. Oh, I love how your hair looks this week. No, they didn't mess it up. Let them have it for the week and just let that joy exist. Okay, let's see here. So I hope that was insightful, Tristan. And, again, to anybody, if you find any value in what I'm doing, all I ask is that you please like the video. And consider a comment if able. It really, really, really does mean a lot. And who else needed to be on the list here? Tasty. Cora. Great. Okay. And so Jocelyn, if you're still here, give me a hey. In the meantime, yep, you'll be next. Oh, that's funny. They're on to me. If I can interlude for a moment, Confucius wasn't a teacher. Confucius was a man who was wise enough to recognize that the answers existed in the people that he was trying to teach, and his job was not to give them information, but to awaken the truth in them so that they came to the conclusion on their own. So you're on to me. I'm not here to do readings for you. I'm here to teach you how to find the answer on your own. And so you got me. Now that's a different circumstance, and we can certainly talk about that if that's a direction you want to get into next, yeah. You know, because once you do have the heart of the question, now you can kind of ask the oracle more honestly. Because, right, what are we doing at first? We're dipping our toe. Like, am I connected to the degree that we can approach the situation and there be positive feedback or not? And if the answer is yes, now we can just get it, into the heart of the question. So I would love to do that. You can circle back into the stream, or we can, self-plug. I'm available for private readings. I have a couple things going on this afternoon, and then some stuff tonight, but I'm available this evening. I'm pretty flexible, so anyone who needs to get any further into any subject, you can give me a call at that number or a text, and I do answer my texts and calls. WhatsApp, for anyone overseas, I use WhatsApp. Just use that phone number, or email, okay? Jocelyn, if you're still here, I'll give you another minute. Otherwise, we're going to move to Ronnie, or is that Rainy? Is it Ronnie 1 or Rainy 2? How do I pronounce your name? If you could help me out. Saji? Tasty. By the way, while we're waiting, I just wanted to mention another brief interlude. So today is September 12th, and is the birthday of two very important people in music. The first is Hans Zimmer. I don't know if anyone knows Hans Zimmer. He's most famous, I think, as a mainstream artist for doing the soundtrack for Lion King, and some other soundtracks in music. And the other is Barry White, which, Barry White is a singer from the R&B days. That's kind of known for his lower register, and so I've always had an inclination toward his music. Rainy, okay, great. Or is that Ronnie? Ronnie. Ronnie. I'm going to read that as Ronnie. So, which I actually knew a Ronnie, just spelled differently, Ronnie Mandel. What a special soul. She was special. She was great. So, okay, so I guess we can all agree that Jocelyn's not here, so Ronnie's next. And Jocelyn, if you happen to pop back in, like I said before, I don't... if you pop out of my stream into another person's stream, that's no problem. What I do is I'll just tack you on to the end of the list. And if you happen to come back in before your name drop, eventually it will drop off, but before it drops off, then we'll go from there, okay? My day job, graphic designer, programmer. I build custom databases and other stuff as a contractor. A lot of software things, fun stuff. But primarily the things that I would say is like my day job is going to be my freelance. So the other stuff that I don't really talk about is related to like old software contracts and stuff that's just fun and keeps the bills paid. So technology, I guess. I fix broken stuff and I build stuff that breaks. So, and I'm a deacon in a Christian church, and so whenever possible, I make myself available to the people that come into my contact that are in need of guidance, spiritual guidance. And although I don't use Christianity as the method, obviously, I don't preach on my channel, and I don't preach Christianity to my clients. I preach truth. Like, I don't care what you call your God, just as long as you recognize that there is one and that we are connected with that and we are separate from it, yet one with it. That's, Do you really? No kidding. That's cool. Yes, my specific expertise is in databases. But yeah. Right? So, okay, well... So, Ronnie, did we have a question here? Nilesh. Uh-huh. Let's see. That's funny. I have an Artie that visits my channel often, actually. I wonder if you both are checking up on each other. Perhaps I should play double agent. I can play matchmaker. Of course, you all know I'm kidding, right? That's actually super dangerous. But, it's an interesting question, too. Let me move the... So one of these two people is kind of coming from a place of codependency emotionally, and the other one is coming from a place of manipulation, knowing that and using it. It's not sustainable. It will not last. It's very transient, and more specifically, neither one, if asked at the end of this situation if it was worth it, would say yes. Yeah. Perhaps not necessarily in the midst of it, but definitely at the end, they're both going to go, oh, that was dumb. But so that said, though, Ronnie, if you put your birth card, or just, I don't know if you put it in, well, we can get a little more advanced reading than that. You know, to those who were here yesterday, I had a live stream last night that went completely emotionally off the rails, and I deeply, deeply apologize for that. And it kind of got a little wacky with the readings, and I tried a few different ways to kind of snap out of it, and I think the energy did get it turned, which was nice, but it was intense and it changed. So I thought I would do an earlier stream today to kind of make up for that, right? And we'll talk about that in a sec there, Ronnie. And so there's a few things that I wanted to kind of go over today, and thought it would be nice to just like do a bunch of readings and kind of go over some of that other stuff later. So let's take a look at it. They love each other. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. There is this idea, though, of a one side is actually I don't want to say lying, right, or malicious, but there's definitely a knowledge of the fact that the other person has a codependent need, and they are using that as kind of like their motivation in the relationship. Now, does that mean that love isn't real? That's not what we're talking about here. It's a matter of the fact that the approach to that scenario is not sustainable, and under that, just kind of the way the cards laid out was the sense that, and this is where the justice came in that circumstance, is that there is no... Sometimes when you have that kind of idea, the relationship ends, at least one of the parties kind of felt the win, as ugly as that is, right? Even if it's like a one of these hit and run relationships where you tell them what they want to hear, and then, you know, you kind of wham bam, thank you ma'am, and you leave. At least one of those people feels like they won that scenario. There's an even energy exchange. Now, what could happen here is that energy can evolve to where the person who's a codependent, because of appropriate application of that sword energy, can empower each other, and so the cup can begin to, as they mature past the page, because the page is a very transient energy. It does not last long. They're not going to become the Knight of Cup. They're going to become the Knight of another element, and how that sword adjusts to that will determine how the relationship adjusts. So it's, if you know, like I said, if they're in a position right now, that's good, but the state that's based on, sort of the foundation that's based on, is actually kind of not sustainable from the respect of sword being fulfilled. Sword is looking at the cup as a something to fix and pity, not something to love. Although it outwardly looks like love, and that sensation is real, there's a nurturing quality. There's a sensation of caring for that person and wanting them to succeed. But there's also this mental idea that, oh, well, they need me, and so I'm going to be what they need. Now, that's not, I want them. That's love. Love is you can't imagine, you don't want to leave their side. You can't wait to get home. You're filled up by them instead of just knowing that you are able to fill them. They fill you also, right? It's mutual. Now, that doesn't mean that can't happen. Let's look at November 27th. That doesn't mean it can't happen. Wheel. There we go. November 27. So it looks like we're in the period of the Eight of Wand. Mercury and Sagittarius. Let's pop that on here. And it's also the energy of, fire. But there's a difference between Mercury and Sagittarius and, say, Jupiter or Saturn. Mercury and Sagittarius is kind of the idea of the application of your Neil deGrasse Tyson, a science communicator, right? Somebody who has a personality that can actually show up on TV and speak in a way that people like, and is but can totally geek out and be okay with that. Like, can speak to a complex subject. Or another idea of that also would be, say, a musician that has good technical skill, not just not someone that's like popular, but is like technically a good musician. That kind of energy, that kind of idea, right? But the 8, here, let's pop it out so you can have a reference. Now, we saw this before, right? It's the one after the fight. This is sort of like again, these wands, all this torrent that's been going on is reaching its end. Now, this appearing in your birth card position is a little different, right? Because again, we're not talking about an event taking place, right? What we're talking about is an overall energy. And so what this refers to is the end of the arch. If these are being thrown through the air, this is the point when they're about to land. And so more appropriately, this is the period of time where, if the wands refer to your will, the energy, your root chakra, which is the thing that kind of gets everything going, first of all, make sure that that's directed. This is a very powerful image if you think about what you're looking at from the respective symbolism, right? The phallic nature of the wand and what it represents with respect to the imposition of our will on the world. This is a lot of will being imposed, right? And just consider that. And so now, if that energy isn't directed, you could be very intimidating, too much so. And if it is directed, it is viewed as power. Because it is. Don't forget where this came from on the last card. That 7 is the idea of being on the high ground and winning that battle. Cora, great. Awesome. So, keep that in mind. This is an energy that goes with you your whole life. It's almost the idea of once you've been through enough storms, you don't even recognize that it's raining. It's like you can walk through anything, and you even have the strength almost to, when needed, just like grab one of these out of the air, you know, and just use it. Like that energy is there for you, and it's available to you. But it does require some participation here, meaning that if we ignore that, and it can overcome us. It's a lot at once. And so we have to be able to weather that, and we have to be able to avoid injury by being overconfident. Because all overconfidence is allowing us to buy every lie. Our brain tells us lies. Oh wow, you look good today. Wow, I don't know, you're having a good hair day. Or I know it's the same cologne I wear every day, but I smell good. I don't know, I mean, we buy our lies, and there's a bunch. And each time we buy one of those lies, it increases our ego a little bit, right? Until a point where we are no longer anything but that, and then we're zombies. Then we have lost agency and have stopped evolving. And we continue to evolve once we put that on pause and move forward with our own thoughts and our own source for that. So that's the lesson of the 8 as you move through your life karmically. And the period of time that we're in right now is the period of introspection, looking back at the period are in now, looking at the stages that we've been in. And either we have the ability during this time to have the luxury of being calm enough to be a resource to others, to share our wisdom, as opposed to being in a position of regret that we didn't do the work. And to take this opportunity of the hermit to go into the darkness and shut the lights and to see the truth, rather than the loudness that is presented to us by the world. But so, there's a lot coming here. And so just to be clear with your question, which was addressed before, the individual in the middle here, which I was looking at as Neelish, is the sword in this circumstance. Already in the circumstance is the cup. And so that's the dynamic of how each is seeing each other. One is seeing the other as a provider and a manipulator, and the other one sees the other one as a needy person that is a project emotionally rather than the target of their affection. It's not sustainable. Nobody will actually ultimately be satisfied. It can maintain for a while even. This situation, because it's not dramatic, can actually stay for a while, but no one is going to be fulfilled. And in the end, if you were to ask either person, they would both say it kind of wasn't worth it. There needs to be potentially a little bit of can I catch this fly? No. Energy put into this circumstance to maybe ignite some different energies, ignite some different personalities that have been hindered. And there's ways to go about that. Counseling works. Nothing's written but the past. Everything we're talking about right now is if nothing were to change, what would the situation be? I'm sorry, this fly has been driving me nuts all day, and I'm gonna go insane. Sorry, I got distracted. It keeps hitting me in the face. It's like it's impossible to think while you have a fly bumping you in your face. Counseling is a real thing, right? And so it comes down to also the why, as far as the relationship is concerned. And if there's something genuinely there that's good, that's a real possibility for growth and longevity, it's absolutely worth that. Otherwise, instead of having couple counseling, have individual counseling to get a sense of who you really are, so that you can better align your desire, so that it's aligned with what's good for you. And you put out yourself, so you get back what's good for yourself, as opposed to putting out what you think the world wants and then winding up getting back basically people who are in need. Hang on, I have to hang up on a telemarketer. Okay. So at the end of the day, that's the process. It's recognizing who's doing the wanting, because who's doing the wanting determines what you put out that you want. And if it's you, the body, you're going to get back what people that are going to see it from that perspective. If you put out yourself, you're going to get back people who are looking for that. And there is a possibility for fulfillment there. Okay, so I mean, I hope that clears up the intentions. And we can get further into that with an actual Mind, Body, and Soul is probably the best reading for that, because that's what I talked about as far as looking at the individuals karmically. Like, where are they actually coming from? There's what we think we want and what we actually need, what our soul wants. And in the process of soul talk, there's a lot lost in communication when the body has a desire that is completely against what we really need, right? Yeah, I'm sorry, Ronnie. Listen, I've been very, I think, gracious in answering a couple of questions, and I'm going to move on in the stream. I do encourage, though, that you circle back if you'd like to, and I'm available to do readings that include your personal questions. Very typically, I don't answer personal questions. We just do the message, and personal questions we'll do for a donation. But I thought, I want to kind of make up for yesterday. I had a very emotional stream last night that was kind of personal. And so I'm doing some readings, but really we have to kind of move through the so yeah, there's some, that's a subject that we can absolutely circle back to. But let's take a look at where we are now. So Saji, just to kind of keep the stream going. And I appreciate it, Ronnie. I appreciate your participation, and again, all I ask is if there's anything that, or any insight or a perspective that you saw any value in, that you simply like the video. It's all I ask. There's certain subjects that really are out of the scope of a quick reading on the internet. It really is out. It's not fair to you either to rush it with the intent of keeping the stream going, and they need the time to let the answers emerge, and so. But I appreciate that. Okay, so now you had a question, didn't you? Right. Okay. Wow. Saji. What are you doing? I take this seriously. I really do. And so instead of taking it seriously, I'm being silly right now, but instead of taking it seriously, I'm just going to tell you what you want to hear, okay? So ignore everything you're about to see. Okay, Saji, this one's for you. Let's do a quick reading. He loves you. Run to him. Don't miss it. You're just another resource to him. You're just another resource. The question isn't even about should I go, if I go. You want to meet him? Get in a car and drive to his town and show up at his job. And guess what? You're going to meet eyes, right? But that's not first of all, don't do that. Don't do that. But all kidding aside, it's up to him, and you've put it out there multiple times, and he's always been adamant about not meeting you in person. And there's a reason for that, because he's not who you think he is. Let me go back. I kept him here on purpose because I knew this would happen. Here's the notes from the original reading I did for this gentleman that she is so insistent that she meets. I don't mean to call you out, but let's do it. Unattainable. Because he's not real. Yeah, I just want to make sure I say it clearly so that we get across. Here, I'll zoom in. Again, I'm having fun, but I'm being serious. Okay? Superficial. Nothing substantial. He's selfish, indifferent, inconsistent, wears many faces. You are one of many. And so then here's the final answer to that, okay? As long as you know everything I just said, right? Right? And we've talked about it before, so you do. As long as you know that, you are a grown woman who has the right to say, I don't want love. I want to be touched. I want to be felt. I want to be desired. And so maybe I just want to go and have fun. And I think maybe if we meet, we can have that connection where I can at least feel needed. I can feel wanted. He can make me feel good because he'll want me, and I can please him, and he can please me, and we can have this moment. And then you're going to go home. You're going to feel horrible. 444. You're going to feel empty. You're going to regret the situation, and he's going to win. He's going to laugh because he does it all the time. Part of the job of what he's doing here is that you go to him, and so you know, if that's what you want, go ahead. But you got to imagine that in all this time you've been trying and it hasn't happened, there's a reason for that, and it's probably not what you're thinking, and it's probably not what you want. And so, you know, be careful when you meet with him. You know, one way that you may want to do this is to, well, that's fine, and he may not, but, you know, you can't, sometimes you can't force that, you know? And we can't make them want. That's black magic. Making somebody want something that they don't, or trying to direct their behavior in a way that's inconsistent with their will, has major karmic consequences to everybody around them. And the lesson here is so clear. And it's okay that you're ignoring it, and I understand why you are, so don't worry, but you know, you can almost even be playful about it. You know, one of the things that I remember I mentioned initially when we first began reading about this gentleman is the idea of you needing to be a little more proactive in your communication about what you're actually feeling. Well, good, yeah. And so call him up and say, hey, listen, so enough games, man. I know, I figured you out. I got you pegged. You and I both know you're a dog. You and I both know that you were playing games with me, and I'll even admit that you won for a minute, but now I got you figured out. So let's take a step back. Let's revisit the situation now with a new respect for who you and I are, now that I know who you are and you know that I know. Now the two of you can actually speak honestly and say, let's have some fun, or let's not, but now we can at least shake hands as real people, not, you know, you being the object of my desire and you playing the game, but, you know, like, forget all that nonsense. That's the game. The human reality is we wanted a connection. He was empty, and this is how he fulfills himself. He's a beautiful being that just needs love. He's just going about it the wrong way, and it's not working out for him, and he's hurting the people that he connects with. It doesn't have to be that way. Can he change? Of course. But he needs to want to. It's the same kind of idea with you. Call it what it is. So you need to be honest about your communication with him, and that includes letting him know that you're onto him, and that's okay. Like, I'm onto you, and I'm all right with that. So now that we got that out of the way, look at me with the eyes of who I am, and I'll look at you through the eyes of who you are. And together we will see the truth here, which is that we're just two people who want a connection. So we can either take it to somewhere or nowhere, but now we're being honest about it. We've met eyes, we've shook hands. Okay, so then what are you doing? Like, I'm not sure. The circle we've been going in here with this gentleman, like, I have a question, just really for anyone. Like, is he super rich? I keep telling him I want him, and he keeps saying no. Okay. Well, can I meet him? No. He doesn't like you. He doesn't want you. He doesn't want to be friends with you. He's going to continue to drag you on because it's fun for him. It's empowering to watch you continue to want him when he directly said to you, I do this to people. I can't commit, but I'm willing to pretend. Right? And you're like, okay. Well, can I meet you? And he's like, no. What are you doing? You're more powerful than this. Like, let go of the loss. You didn't lose. You're gonna lose if you stay winning, playing this stupid game that does not have an end, because there is no game. It's just a circle of him playing the same thing to whoever's willing to listen. step out of that circle and let him talk to the next one, who he's going to say no to and won't meet, because when she tries to meet him, he's going to go, oh crap, then she's going to realize I lied about half of my life. I can't have her come here. She can't see where I live. She can't see who my friends are. She'll know the truth. And the other thing I'm going to say about this subject, at least for the next 24 hours, because you know that I'm a softie and I'll just say yes. The next time you ask me the same boring question about Charmin, go ahead and get in a cab and drive to his job and show up and be like, guess who? But I don't encourage that, because that can backfire. Right? Is anybody else? Let's just poll the room real quick. Does anyone else, think that, did I miss anything here? With respect to, and that's not Saji's card. She's a Five of Wands or a Five of Swords. So ignore that. But I don't think I'm saying anything off base. No, of course I'll be happy, and I'll remind you every day. Tell you what, Saji. Here's the deal. I promise to tell you the truth, and I promise to do it patiently, as long as you promise to listen. That's it. And you and everyone else in the room, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do that. That's not why I'm here. If you want me to tell you what you want to hear, you have to pay me for that. I take my craft too seriously to lie to you for free. That's stupid. Okay, I need 2 minutes just to kind of wind down, and then Tasty, Cora, Jocelyn, if you're in the room, you're coming up. Saji, I love you. Stop this. Enough. Would you stop? Come on. And, okay, so Tasty, you're next. And I need about 5 minutes just to wind down, and we'll talk in a little bit. Okay? I mean it, Saji. I was being silly. You know I love you, okay? Alright, I'm back. I decided to introduce another member of the family. This is Arlo. He is a Chiweenie. He's a Chihuahua Dachshund. He's a little emo sometimes. Right, my buddy? You don't know how to feel half the time, do you? That's my guy. Anyway. Mwah. Very special part of my family, that little guy. And he made very good friends with our puppy. The two of them are really famous together. So if you hear any shenanigans going on, it's probably those two. So. Okay, so that said, Tasty, if you're in the room, say hey. If not, Corey, you're up. Luana, hello. Yeah, he's great. He is really something. He came into my life in a very special way, too. Very, very close friend of mine and a mentor. Passed away recently, and we were very close toward the end of his life, and we spent a lot of time together. And I bonded with Arlo. And when he passed, his family decided that him and I were very close and that he should stay with me. And I was honored to take him. And so Arlo joined my family last year, toward the end of the year. And he's been my buddy ever since. And he's a welcome part of the family. That's right, honey. Now that is Chloe. Chloe is my third dog. She's a rescue from Hurricane Katrina. Right, baby? She's a very pretty girl. Yeah. She's got a little temper with everybody except me. She bites everyone, so... So let's take a look, Cora. Okay. You know how some people like to have life around their environment in the form of plants and flowers, or, you know, my life is dogs, cats. I don't have any cats right now, but I've typically had cats in my life. God has saw fit to put me in a little dog family. Okay, so I know we looked it up. Maybe it was yesterday, but let's see. February 2nd. Six of Sword, which is the energy of Mercury in Aquarius. So let's get that on there. Six of Sword. Okay. No. Let's pop that out so you have a reference. Okay. And it's interesting too, since we have the spotlight deck up, to take a look at what the Six of Sword looks like there as well. So I'm just going to locate it really quickly, and then we'll pull cards and we'll look at love. But in the meantime, your personal message is related to the Six of Sword here. The Six of Sword is a card that, you know, there's a few ways to look at this. The first way that people typically look at it, what we call the little white book meaning, is that they're traveling off, right? It's almost like an entrepreneurial move. Like something's going on, and so they've gone ahead as a family and packed up their wares, and they've packed them in the boat, and off they go to spread their wares with the world, right? There's also this idea, I think, that is implicit in the fact that this person is kind of doing what they need to, and there's a little bit of a trepidation here. And the reason I say that is that if you look at the family in the boat, look how he's clothed, and yet the woman, I'm assuming this is a nuclear family, of the father, the mother, and the child, and that the mother is like wrapped up, almost in a state of shame, like they're having to leave because something didn't work out, and they're going elsewhere to try it elsewhere. But this is also a positive sign with respect to going off on your own. This typically follows the decision to make a change due to the fact that you're either not being treated properly, working below your capabilities, have gotten over a fear. And this is the step, which is super scary for yourself and the people around you, of saying it's time to go off and do this on my own. There's also the idea here of the mental activity of collecting ideas and sharing them. Because the swords are a mental object. The sword represents thought, mental activity, ideas, worldviews. And so when you consider that, that's the idea there. Now, it's falling in the birth section. So this doesn't mean you're going to spend your life, swimming around in circles. But what it does refer to is the fact that you have the capacity. It's easier for you than, say, some others to collect and share these ideas. And in fact, you might have a compulsion to do that. There's a part of you that always has this, not just wanderlust. Some people wander out of curiosity, but that's not you. You're the opposite. You wander because you're seeking someone to share what you've already found. You're not looking. You found it and you want others to have what you found. The 10 is the idea of that being achieved. And at the end of the day, the reward of that is this moment of being able to reflect back on your good decisions, that the family is in good standing, the baby is able to have joy, the parents can stop joyfully and speak because they're not too busy. You actually have the moment of leisure in your older years instead of working. So it's kind of a good card from that respect. I'm hearing chewing and I'm getting nervous. Oh my gosh, what do you got? Not so bad. Yeah, look what I caught her chewing on. This is an old record of Scrooge, like an actual old record of Scrooge from years ago. So that's not so bad, but look at this one. She chewed the corner of. This is an original off the wall from Michael Jackson. Original, like this is from the. And look what she did. Oh, I almost killed her. All right, anyway, so that dog is lucky that she's pretty. That's all I have to say. Now, so let's look at the spotlight version of this card. Similar idea. There's the idea here, obviously, of traveling. Crossing the water is the big deal here. It's not just traveling. It's not like you're taking your stuff to the local flea market. This is like you are leaving where you were to go elsewhere. Now let's look at the symbolism here of where you're leaving and where you're going. Ruins, burn. That doesn't look so green, does it? So the lesson here is basically that going around in circles doesn't get you anywhere. And this is kind of the hidden meaning of this. Like there's various levels of the meaning, right? There's the outer white book version. There's the middle sort of initiated meaning. And then there's the deeper occult one. The Tao puts it perfectly. The Tao Te Ching. Whether you're going up the ladder or down the ladder, your position remains the same, which is shaky. But when you stand on the ground on your own 2 feet, you never lose your balance. It's the idea of looking up and going, oh, I want to be there, and so you get on the ladder. Now, if there's somebody up on the ladder higher than you, you're going to look at that person and think, wow, they're doing better than me. But what happens when the ladder falls? You're both in the same exact position as that ladder's going down. I don't care how high you were or on the bottom, you're both going to wind up falling. But the guy on the ground watching you both doing their own thing laughs and walks away. And kind of part of the lesson of the 6 is that you're already where you need to be to do what it is you need to do. Packing up and finding another place to do the same thing isn't going to change. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. What needs to change is your aim. But again, the fact that this is appearing in the birth section is the important lesson. The lesson is don't be afraid if you feel like you're not succeeding, because moving won't change that. We've all been there. We're on the highway. Traffic's moving, the lane we're in slows a little bit, and what do? We change lanes. Damn it, we do it every time. And what happens? The lane we just got out of starts moving. Son of a bitch! Right? So that's what happens when you're on the road of life. Don't change lanes just because it's slower. Don't think you have to pack up because it's better elsewhere. The grass is never greener. Rather, realign the thing that you want to share and recognize that you could do it where you are right now. And then the growth comes organically. So I don't know, I hope that was insightful. I don't know if you had a specific question, Cora. Let's actually scroll back, but that's your message of the day. No, I'm not seeing any specific question. And I'll pause in the meantime and ask if you need any clarification about anything I talked about or have any questions about anything. Or otherwise, again, all I ask of anybody that participates in my streams is if you get any insight that you like the video. Sure. So let's take a look at where you are with respect to that. Meaning that, what are you putting out when you interrogate the universe and communicate back what you want? What is it hearing? Puppies. Puppies, puppies, puppies. Love, love, wait, remember? I have to remind myself I love her. What are you doing? What? That's my record. Okay. Yeah, okay. Come here. Oh, see, she knew she did bad. She ran away. Come here, honey. Come on up. Maybe not. So, let's look at where you are. And what I mean by that is when you communicate with the world, you subconsciously put out what you want. Mammy, thanks for popping in. How you doing? I'll get you on the list. No problem. And so we have to be cautious sometimes when we're not 100% conscious of how we're communicating that. Because if it's the wrong way, then we're going to kind of put out the wrong want, and then we're going to receive the wrong thing. So let's look at what you're putting out, and then kind of what you can expect, if nothing changes, what to expect with respect to love in the near future. And so then now we can then look at that and go, oh, well, do nothing because the future's good. Or if it's not, then what needs to change, okay? So here, let me get you on there. Cora, let's see what we can see. All right, first, I'll throw some more cards, but we're going to start with this. Why am I doing all the work? Why does it seem like every time it's like the harder I try, the more I'm asked? Like, why do I always have to be the one to show up? And it's getting frustrating. I'm kind of getting toward the end of that. All right. And we've seen this card come up a couple of times today in different connotations. And let's just pop it out for those who want context. Okay. It's the one here on the far right, the Eight of Wands. Different decks, but similar idea. Interestingly, I love this deck is also, there's some interesting stuff that he throws in here. Like, what's with that bird delivering a message? Right? Because the idea here is you all had a deal to show up, and you showed up and nobody else did. And this is the end of the battle where, like, this is the final work to be done. And the next stage is positive for you, but man, it was hard to get there. part of what I'm seeing here is an ineffective work-life balance. It seems like that, your work is bleeding into your personal life, or your personal life is bleeding into your work, and the imbalance is causing a problem. It's becoming overwhelming. It almost like maybe you don't have time for yourself, which is probably why you're seeking this. So when it comes to love, there's this idea that that work-life balance needs to kind of be adjusted. I'm going to focus on this middle card, which is related to work, because I'm curious what that message is that is being asked, right? That's being delivered. And, one of the reasons that that's a cool symbol is there's sort of an occult meaning to this idea. We've talked about it. I touched on it. With the fact that those are arcing through space, and the 8 is at the end of that arc, right? So they're all falling. They're ending. So it's another idea of something coming toward you. But the way that Robert Valenza depicted that is actually quite lovely with this bird, carrying the message. It's like your owl. And so the next card I'm going to draw is going to be what that message is. It's related to work, related to love. Pisces, hidden, emotions that aren't on the surface, occult. The moon has a lot of meanings. His is interesting, though. We have these two dancers, but notice that they're not really dancers. They're marionettes, right? They're like puppets, that you use with the strings. And the moon is pulling the strings. And you've got a couple of people here that are kind of dancing along. And now you've got two people, and they're in two different states, right? You've got the one person that's not happy. That's the man. He's like, what is going on? I'm out of control, and I'm being pulled in these directions, and I don't like this. And then you have the woman who is accepting it joyfully. It's like, wow, this is fun. Dance with me. Which is kind of like the state that we're all in anyway. But with respect to love in this situation, what you kind of have is you have two people. You have one that's kind of in this joyous place of allowing the world to kind of be what it is and working within that and finding that joy. And you have this other one that's sort of uncomfortable when they're out of control. They have to kind of be in that control, and if they're not, it makes them feel uncomfortable. And so the message here is to let go and to find the joy in that moment. I think, part of whatever this like work-life balance thing is here, or whatever this disconnection is where you're feeling like you don't have the time, it comes down to attitude and how you're approaching the situation. One example of that is insisting that there be a balance at home. If you do have people that should be helping you but aren't, that's a situation that needs to be discussed. Or at work, if you're overextending yourself and you're taking your stuff home with you, I'm guilty of that, so I'm not going to point fingers, but man, that's not fair. I guarantee you're not getting compensated properly if you do that. I don't care what you do for a living. If you take work home, you're being robbed. That said, there's possibility here because there's a few things that we can address. The first thing is temperance. And what does temperance mean? The original meaning that people talk about with temperance is the idea of denying yourself excess. It's the idea of like the teetotalers, right? That don't drink, or that don't gamble, or that don't, whatever the case may be. Good little Christians. But that's because that's the rules of Christianity. The person in temperance is different. It's not about not drinking. It's about not identifying with the drink. Enjoy it to its fullest. Don't deny yourself pleasure, just don't identify with it and make it your goal for living. It will be the side effect of right living. Because pleasure is a product of the actions of the ego. fulfillment is the product of the actions of the heart. And what's more important, we all know the truth. We've all been in love and wound up totally empty, didn't we? Even if the physical connection was good. So what? We had fun for 5 minutes? All right, maybe 4. But then what? And so it's what temperance really refers to is the idea of taking every ounce of pleasure the world has to offer within the bounds of it not becoming an addiction, without it becoming a compulsion, without it becoming the target of your actions. And so temperance is just a warning, a lesson, a guide to finding that middle. And giving into the joy. Now, what does that have to do with love? What that does have to do, first of all, this idea is related to the job situation. So whether it's somebody that's in your field or somebody that you've worked with in the past, that maybe is a little enthusiastic in a way that you think may be weird, but when you re-examine that enthusiasm, they're just trying to spread joy, and you should accept that. Or maybe there's somebody that you can do that to, and by opening that up, there's this connection. But it seems like that there's something related to work, and the message here is for you to lighten up, so that connection can open. But also, temperance is an important thing. Finding that balance is really, really important. That work-life balance, and don't take your work home, and don't take your work, your life to work. And I mean, obviously, you don't have a choice. We've all been there. Right, we're sitting at work and the phone rings and it's our kid. I'm bleeding. I pick up the phone and like all I hear in the background is like the dog screaming bloody murder, like someone died. And I'm thinking, why is my dog right? It's like kids. So things are going to happen, but then there needs to be a balance, and there needs to be boundaries on both sides. But with respect to this relationship at work, you can consider that. I mean, you might even want to circle back, and we could discuss this further. Now, keep in mind, I keep all my readings up, and I do that on purpose, so you can always review them. And that's one of the reasons I have it up on the screen here, so as you're flipping through the thumbnail or or whatever on YouTube, you can find your name and you can kind of get to that spot on the video. So what we can do is now guide the future reading on that circumstance. As far as something going on at work that is relevant to the dynamic of how you decide to react to the situation of the strings being pulled. Do you give in joyfully, or do you fight it? And also, more importantly, too, that there needs to be this balance. And the balance is not foregoing pleasure, it's allowing it, but in the right ratio. So yeah, I mean, I hope that was insightful, and if it is, again, all I ask is that you consider giving a like and commenting. Any stupid, silly little comment means the world. It could be anything. It could be a knock-knock joke. You can, in the comments, knock-knock, who's there, I have to think of a good one now. You're so welcome. I appreciate it. Knock knock, who's there? Banana. I won't, don't worry. Okay. So, Mattie, if you're here, thank you so much, Cora. And if you're here, you're next. Cancer. Well, I have a good new job. Okay, sure. Okay, no problem. Yes or no, right? That's a yes or no. So I'm going to use creative license, and I'm going to change the question to, how can I get a good job? Which I think is a more useful question. Will I get a good job? That's up to you. If you just apply at bad jobs, then no. You can be completely incompetent, apply to 10 good jobs, and probably get a fair chance at one of them, right? So, I mean, yeah, so, I mean, I'm being silly, of course, but, so we're going to, like, really address the question of, like, how, or another good one, rather, is, what field should you look into? And what are the next steps you should take that you, begin your path of being successful in that field, right? No, I don't know if you stuck your birthday in here. If you did, I'm going to scroll back and see it. If not, then just put your month and day. Don't need the year in the chat. If you'd like, you can erase it after. Or you can pop the wheel up and you can find it around the wheel. If you look at the outer edge, you'll see the dates. And let me know what card is associated with the day of your birth, maybe. Is that July 16? Is that, are you referring to July 16? Okay, good. I wanted to make sure because that looked a little weird there. I was like, uh-oh, okay. Must be Mayan. No, I'm kidding. It's a little geek humor for the math guys in the room. All right, so let's see, July 16 is the Four of Cups. And we've seen the Four of Cups before. Let's get that on here. It's the person sitting there harumping with the three cups in front, and then the cloud holding out one of the cups that's being ignored due to the cynical nature of the fact that they can't stand their environment. They're just sort of like done with the world. That's the card. Let me pop it up so you can see it. The Ten of Pentacles is the period of time that we're in. It's relevant to all of us. And the Hermit is the ruler of that period. So it's not just the introspection of the Ten, but also the quiet, personal introspection of the Hermit apply to that. And now, so the idea of the Four here, this is not an event taking place in your life. This is your birth card, and it carries with you your whole life, right? And so what this does is it has the ability to affect certain decisions with respect to how easy or difficult the energy of that happening is. What I mean is that you may have a tendency to have a lack of patience for injustice or a lack of patience for what you know to be wrong. Also, if you've been burned, you kind of hold a grudge a little while. You know, you may not be the easiest person to forgive on the inside. Like, you kind of hold stuff in, like, that person did me wrong, and so, you know, you may remember that longer than maybe some people. And the warning is to not let that change your heart. Don't let that turn you into a cynical person where you assume everyone is going to be like the other people. Like, just because someone cheated on you doesn't mean the next person will. Just because somebody hurt you doesn't mean the other person will, right? This is the core concept of racism or sexism or bigotry, right? Looking at a group and assuming everyone in that group is the same. It's that idea. It's kind of like not accepting the truth because of what you've seen in the past and assuming that they're the same thing, so this has no value. And the warning is that that's not the case. The past does not necessarily dictate the future, and we have to be open to the possibility and the opportunity that arises separately in each circumstance. And so we just have to be aware of that. And the outcome, if we don't, is that we miss life by being too critical, and that our R10 turns into regret of looking back at all the things we didn't experience because we were too busy not experiencing, because we figured that there was nothing, it wasn't worth it. Or another way to put that is that we will judge a person before we have any real knowledge of them based on what we think they're going to be because of other people. And that can really affect our relationships in a poor way. So one of the things that the Hermit is teaching us during this period of time is that the energy is good right now for us to do that work, to go inside and to look at, in your case, what are these things? Oh, it's not about revenge. That's important, and that's good. I'm glad you said that. And it's good that you know that you have that energy, because that doesn't help anyway. Revenge doesn't work. This is more like internally thinking to yourself, like, things that are coming are the same as things that were. Like, it's all just going to be the way that it was, and that's not the case. We always have an opportunity to grow. Things have an opportunity to surprise us, and to give us this sense of a new enthusiasm when we're surprised. You know, I get this oftentimes when trying new foods that I have ignored. Or here's a great example. For almost 40 years, I've been reading the tarot, teaching occult, esotericism, hermeticism, homeopathy, naturopathy, aromatherapy, Eastern medicine and philosophy, healing. I'm a priss when it comes to the source of my information, and I'm very strict about the tools that I use. Specifically my cards. And there's certain systems that, and their decks, I wouldn't even look at, because I thought that they were trite and childish, especially because of the artwork. And I was wrong. And I bumped into, for instance, the Deviant Moon deck while for a different reason doing research on a subject, and came across the imagery. And just as an artist, I paint and I draw. I was intrigued in the art, and so I got it to look at. This was eye candy. And I never had the intention of reading with it as a deck. I didn't even consider. Even I'm embarrassed to say, when I was looking at the deck, I didn't see the power of the symbolism. Oh, wow, that's gorgeous. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, look at the artwork. Oh, it's so pretty. I love his colors. But I ignored the power of the symbols, because it's not Rider-Waite based, it's not Golden Dawn based, it doesn't use the appropriate astrological correspondences and all this whatnot. How stupid am I? Like, come on. You can read tarot with a speck of dust if you knew how to read it, right? If you understand the system of tarot, you don't need cards. You can literally use the next observable phenomena that encounters your being the moment after you ask the question as a form of tarot. One example of that is bibliomancy. The truth is there if we take it. Bibliomancy is the idea of opening a book to a random spot, reading the first sentence, and taking that as the answer to your question, right? And so it comes down to truly understanding the source of the questioner and where you're coming from, and being open to that answer, right? Ooh, I think she's going to catch the fly. No. Okay. And if we're not open to that answer, we give up agency. So it's not really even about vengeance as much as saying, you know what, I'm not going to assume the future is the past. Now, I'm trying to see, let's find a good book here to randomly open to a page and then see if we can find an answer in that. What do I have available to me right here? I have that book that we were playing with last night, that fun astrology book. Let's look at what does Memi need to know with respect to letting go and being in a better position to know the direction to take with respect to their career. Let's do this randomly. I'm gonna just open this other page. Well, let me turn off the cards. Okay, so let's just have a random page I flip to. I'm just gonna go up and down, right there. Okay. Okay. There's no particular passion or warmth in your manner because you use your attractiveness to get what you want. You're constantly flirting in order to involve others, not because you want them, but because you want them to want you. You could appear at the Four of Cup as the idea of the 3 cups in the front are the different rejections of people who didn't want you, no matter how hard you worked at it. And there's a 4th person going, what about me? And you're like, ah. That's one way to look at that if I were to combine what I just read with those cards. But I don't know, I hope that makes sense. Now I'm going to pull a couple with respect to, or one to start, and then we'll see where it goes with respect to like the direction you should take as far as career, and then what would be the path that would help you to facilitate that direction. And then I'm going to have to actually wrap it up here. It's getting a bit late, and I have a few things going on today. Before I do my readings, I put 4 readings up a day. They're the ones from the 12th are up right now, and I also did the 12 sign readings, and so those are up as well for the week. And so you can go get your sign reading now, and I'll be streaming tonight, probably about 1:30 to 2 a.m. Eastern time, which I believe I'm 5.5 behind Greenwich Mean, I believe, but I'm Eastern United States. And so I'll be between 1:30 and 2 a.m. this evening. Basically in 8.5 hours or 9 hours. Because who needs sleep? The Four of Swords is the idea of putting down the sword. It's the card of truce. It's the card of peace. But why? Because you have literally chosen to stop fighting. But now the card also has a couple of connotations with respect to the question here, because we're talking about career. So swords mean math, science, medicine. I want to look at another card here. And take a look at wow. All right. The Two of Cups is the card of connection. And so when you combine that with the Four of Swords, what we have here is the idea of utilizing science and technology for this connection to occur. And it's also on an emotional level. Or some type of union of 2 different competing energies. One way, too, just to be clear on how this could be interpreted, as an example, I'm in technology and I do a lot of software engineering, specifically in databases. And one of the things that I've done in the past is to take old legacy systems that speak a different language and give it an interface in new technology so that we can query 2 databases using different languages at the same time. Basically, I was working with multiple kinds of media that were old. Some of it was magnetic reel tapes of data. Some of them were tape decks of data. And multiple government bodies in the United States were subpoenaing information that was being stored by these companies. One of the companies that I was contracted to work for, that was a large mobile carrier. And a lot of the information was stored across these legacy systems, some of which had specific pieces of hardware that were necessary to read one type of media, like a certain type of tape or certain type of magnetic tape. And we needed to query that database, right? And so basically what this would refer to is using technology to make a connection between 2 programming languages, 2 operating systems. Another way that this could be looked at is psychotherapy, being in the position of providing emotional stability through, through science. But what we're seeing here is that it's definitely a person-to-person career. They're not just talking; they're close. So there's an intimate relationship with the customer or the person that's procuring the product or the service that you're offering. There's some type of personal connection with that, first of all. And secondly, it refers you are the one doing the work. Like, as far as the piece of the Four of Swords, one of the people involved needs to be the one to say, I'm going to stop fighting and put the sword down. Like, it's a willful act. And as far as the Fool is concerned, this is not something you've considered maybe doing before, or it's kind of new to you, meaning that, like, you may have thought about doing something and this is a different path. It's a new path. Or one that you never actually took seriously, but now you are. All right, so does that make sense? I'm going to pause and ask if you want any clarification or guidance on any of the specifics that I talked about. Otherwise, okay, great. And you know, and I would welcome anybody that, whether I've done readings for you or not, to pop back in at any time that you'd like, and you know, we can circle back, and when we get back to you, we can continue on the subject. You know, I like to keep the stream going, and you know, it's important to kind of honor the fact that a lot of people sort of want to participate, and so I don't try to take too much time, but I certainly hate rushing through. Actually, I forget hate. I won't rush through readings. You know, if we haven't satisfied the answer, then you know, I like whenever possible to try to continue that. So, thank you so much. And you know, again, all I ask of anybody that participates in my stream is that if you found any value in what I'm doing, please like the video, and more important, a very simple, silly little comment. Thank you so much. Heart emoji. You stink. Your reading sucked. You know, whatever. Anything in the comments really goes a long way of letting the algorithm know that I'm worth, you know, being put in front of other people. And it means a lot as I grow the channel here. And I really appreciate that. So, that said, quickly, if there's anyone else in the room that I missed, I apologize for that. I'm going to be streaming again later. We're going to be talking about a couple of very interesting subjects. We're going to be talking about understanding the court cards. That's a really fun subject for people, whether you're a new or intermediate in the tarot. And I've been surprised to find that there's some people that call themselves masters that had no idea that the Deacon system existed as a divinatory tool. So it's great. Thank you, Luana. I appreciate it. Every time I see your name in my stream, it makes me smile. That said, Soul Talk is another type of reading that I've begun to develop publicly. It's the difference between the message that you're trying to be told from your true self and what it thinks you want. And so once we know those two things, we can get really to the heart of how to adjust that communication so that they speak better. And when you do attempt to impose your will on the universe, you're more successful at it, right? And that is better for everybody involved. Because how do we get what we want, align what we want with what's best for the universe? And then it will conspire to give that to us. The Beautiful Soul, which we'll be talking about tonight as well. Last night's was really intense. That was quite the reading. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate that. That means a lot. That means a lot. And you know, what I look for in a reader, whether or not they're even good at the craft, is because that comes with time. Is authenticity, right? Do they care about what they're doing? And I try to put that out. And so the fact that you said that means a lot to me, because it just means that I feel like I'm being heard. And to anybody I wasn't able to get to in today's stream, I like to do it a couple of hours at least, and I do have to run. I have some stuff coming up here, and it's been a little over 2 hours. But I'll be back on tonight, probably about 2 a.m., right? So that's a 6 by 8, about 8.5 hours from now. I'll be back on, all right? So otherwise, I do answer the phone, and when I don't, I answer my voicemail. So that number give me a call or a text message. If you're out of the U.S., WhatsApp works as well. Thank you to Saji for that suggestion. It's already working very well for me to be able to reach people I couldn't just because they're in Asia or a different part of the country or the world. So, and if you do find any value in what I'm doing, please give the video a like or a comment. I encourage highly you check out the beginning of my live streams if you miss them, because I usually spend 10-15 minutes talking about some nugget of wisdom related to the tarot, its usage, and so forth. And I'm warning you, if you watch last night's stream, bring tissues. It got pretty intense right out of the gate. So that said, thank you so much to everybody who joined. Please comment and share it if you found any value, and I'll see you guys tonight. Have a great day.